Hi everybody, it's Diana with Stamping with Di. Welcome to this week's Teach Me Tuesdays episode 151. I had to look it up, and it's talking hands again today, and I feel a little bit better. I still feel a little nauseous because of the medicine, so you don't want to see me. So today I'm going to show this really fun technique, and I have this top which I can't find, but it's called Faux Dip-Dye, and basically dip dyeing is like you dip it, into a color, and then you let it dry, and then you dip it again, and it gets darker. It's almost like ombre. I think ombre is kind of very similar to that as well. So this is what I'm going to be doing. Now I learned this way I'm doing it here from Christina Warner, and if you have done any kind of stamping, I'm sure you've heard of her. She has a channel on YouTube. So that's basically where I learned this way, and there's other ways where you can actually like dip it into the ink and stuff, but I'm just going to do it this way. So I am using the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, the same watercolor paper that I used yesterday for the Mimeograph Monday. The colors that I'm going to be using are Garden Green, Old Olive, Granny Apple, Parakeet, and Shaded Spruce. Now usually when I watercolor, I sprinkle, I put refill into the lid of the pad, and then I add water. But that's when I'm watercoloring. This uses a lot of water, so I don't want to do that because I don't want this to be really saturated with water. I don't mind adding a little water when I'm just watercoloring, but not for this technique. So what I did was I pulled out my old paint palette, basically, and I had just wrote with like a dry erase marker the colors. So we're going to start, Parakeet, then go to Granny, Old Olive, Garden, Shaded, then Evergreen. And I just put like a little, I put refill, and then I put little bits of water, and then you just want it to get a little darker. You want to make sure it keeps some of the ink. You don't want it to be really, really light because we want that dark. All right, so I'm going to just put that off to the side. I'm also going to use, this is just an old clipboard. All right, so I'm going to put my, whatchamacallit, let's see if I can raise a little bit. I don't want to raise too much where then you can't see what I'm doing. But anyways, so I have my refills here. So I've already squirted, I've already added a little bit of water. All right, so we have our watercolor paper. Now I'm not going to tape it down or anything. I mean, you can, but I'm going to end up die cutting this out, so I'm not going to worry so much about taping it down. I also have my heat gun off to the side as well. I have a glass of water and just a paintbrush. Now you can use you could use this as well, but I'm just going to have to keep cleaning it, and I found that just a regular old paintbrush was a lot easier than using the water painter. All right, so we are going to start. So I'm going to start with the lighter one first, and I'm going to start from the top and just kind of work my way down. I am going to use the tailored tags. Let's see, let's grab this one. So I'm just going to put a little mark. Where's my pencil? I'm just going to put a little mark. This is a little bigger than I did for the other one, but that's okay. So I'm just going to put myself a little mark so that I know to go at least to there with the ink. All right. So I'm going to make this tag be a little bit longer than the one I did before. All right, so we have our water off to the side. I want to get a paper towel just so I can kind of just have all this stuff ready, right? Okay, so then this I'm just kind of keeping the paintbrush clean off to the side. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit so you can see a little bit better. All right, so this water is going to get nice and green. All right, so we're going to pick up our parakeet. And what I usually do is just tap a little bit on here and just to see if I need to make it be a little more diluted. And I think I do, so I don't want to waste that's on the brush. And I just put water in here. And I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I found that this was easier to put in this little bottle because I have a bunch of them, right? That's what I put the glue in. Otherwise, if I pour from the water bottle, I didn't have any way to control it. All right, so we're just going to take, and we are just going to brush this on here. And I'm going to go down. I'm not going to go down all the way because you're just going to waste that green because this is going to get covered by the darker. But, all right, so that looks good. Then let's put this in here because we want it to be clean. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to heat this up. Like I said, I have my heat gun off to the side. And we're going to heat this up because you want it to be dry in between, and I'll show you why. All right, so sorry that this is going to be noisy. So this is so cool. And like I said, you know, you could use the water painter. It was just easier. I mean, I could have dunked it into the glass just as easy as that one, but the brush is a little softer and thicker on the paintbrush, so that's why I chose to do that. All right, so let me make sure this is good and dry. Let me do from the back side. And that will also help the paper lay flat. So you also know when it starts to dry because it goes flat. All right, so now we'll go to Garden or Granny. So I want it to get a little darker as we go. So now we're going to pick up some Granny. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to brush that along. And I'm going to come down a little ways. Like that. So don't try to be perfect in this, right? Like make it kind of be a little kind of wonky. All right, so there's color number 2. And we're going to heat it up again. So you're just go to light to dark, like, you know, light to dark. Now you could, if you wanted, you could do like one color and then just keep adding a drop of refill and it would make it darker and darker and darker. But I chose like 6 different greens instead of doing it that way. But I wouldn't want you thinking, oh, you had to use all of these greens. No, you could just really dilute your parakeet. And then the next layer, just add some drops of refill to make it darker and just keep doing that. And then you would just have, one color that just kept getting darker and darker. All right, I think that's good. Let me feel that. Yeah, that's good because you want it to be dry. All right, so now let's do Old Olive. And I'm making it kind of crooked, so it's going to look like a landscape because that's what I'm going for. I'm going for a landscape. Okay, and then heat it up again. So there's a lot of heating up with this. So it takes a little bit of time. That's why I'm doing like the full sheet, and then I'll trim it down. So depending on what size tag you use. So when I used the smaller tag before, I got 3 tags. But this time I'm going to use a bigger tag. So I'll probably just get 2 tags. But just keep heating that up. And I like to flip it over, get the back side as well. And you can usually tell when it's dry just because of the color change on there. Oops, hang on a minute. Let me make sure I turn it off all the way. All right, that looks good. Okay, so now we're gonna go into garden. And I'm leaving a little bit of water on my brush so that it will dilute a little bit more than it is. So now we want our garden. So I'm trying to keep it straight up there without it being too, I don't want the brush, you know, the brush stroke, the brush marks. Okay, so it looks good. And we'll heat that up. So your board gets pretty dark too, but this is just an old board. All right, and it gets dry too when I do the heat, so it's drying it. So I probably don't want to be moving it like I am, because if it gets wet up in here, so that might be why you could tape it, but I like to be able to move it a little bit. Alright, so we're just heating that up. So it's very repetitive. Flip it over. Alright. Because I'd rather do a whole big sheet than just the one small tag. All right, so this looks good. So now we're gonna go into shaded spruce. And they're getting darker and darker. So now we're doing shaded spruce. Okay, and heat it up. You can tell it was a little bit wet there still because it pulled some of that green into the line, so it wasn't as straight of a line. So that's why you want to make sure it is really good and dry. It looks cool back here too, right? That bit that's coming over. I just want to make sure it's good and dry. And then we have one more color. So if you're doing a bunch of these, once you decide that, oh, I like that technique, I'm going to do a bunch of them, you could do like a whole bunch with a light and set them aside, you know, and then they would be kind of air drying, so then you wouldn't have to heat dry them as long. All right, and then let's do our evergreen, and it's the darkest yet. It's like really, really dark green. Okay, so let me heat set that last one. And they're all different. Like, I don't think you could make an identical one if you tried. But isn't that cool looking? All right. So once we get it all the way dry, dry. So if you can let it sit longer in between as well, you'll have much more straight, solid lines without any of that little bit of where the color is pulling. But I'm just trying to make this video not to be super long. All right, that's probably good. All right, let me unplug my heat tool. It's always a good thing to unplug it when you are done. All right, I'm just going to set this off the table. This is an accident waiting to happen. All right, and I'm going to get my cut and emboss machine. All right, so we want our cut and emboss machine. And let me scoot up a little bit. Here we go. And we are using the tailor-made tag, so I already showed you that. But I'm also going to be using the reindeer die. So let's grab the one that I wanted. And let's see if that will fit on there. Yeah, it will. All right, let me get my plates. So if you're just joining me, welcome. I'm doing a faux dip-dye technique today. All right, and so we want 1, 2, and this. And I learned this from Christina Werner. She has a channel on YouTube. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this on here. I'm going to put my tag up here. And we're going to cut this tag out. So we can get two tags this size, or I could do, you know, a smaller one. But look how pretty that tag is. I mean, it's gorgeous just by itself. So let's see. Let's do this size. So then we won't have as much dark on the bottom. So I could probably, if I scoot that over a little bit, I could probably get 2 of this size. But see what I mean about doing the full sheet? Now we could have done like a whole other shape. I could have pulled out the stitched rectangles or any of the other dies, even a circle. Wouldn't that make a beautiful ornament? If you did like an ornament one, that would be gorgeous. All right, so here we have this tag. So now this time you don't have as much as the dark because it's a smaller tag. So let's do one more. It's just so fun. All right, so let's do one more. And so they all look different. Just because when you're brushing that ink on, you know, you're not trying to be like so perfect, you know, with your lines, you're kind of putting them on there crooked. All right. So let me get this off of there. And put this off to the side. All right. So let's finish this up. Let me scoot down a little bit. Scoot down. There we go. All right. Now what I did was I cut out in copper these deer, and aren't they gorgeous? Oh my gosh. This is so pretty. But oh, let me show you because I'll forget. So this is what I was doing when I was playing with my colors and I was brushing it on there quick just to see if I liked it or not. And you can see the difference. So see how like you have more solid lines here, except where I didn't let it dry good enough, you know, where it pulled just a little bit. But this is because this was still wet. And I just went with the next color. So when this is wet, when you do the next color, that goes, oh, look, there's water up there, and it will follow that water. Now, this is still perfectly fine because this looks almost like grass and trees, you know, so it's totally fine. So I'll use it for something else. But I wanted to show you, like, this is why you want to dry it in between if you want these nice, crisp lines on your faux tie-dye. All right, so let's put our reindeer on there. And we're just going to use some dimensionals. So let me get my baby dimensionals. I'm also going to be using some of the whatchamacallit. This is the metallic woven ribbon because I thought it was perfect to go with these tags. And I haven't stamped anything, like I'll end up putting a greeting, maybe they'll go on a card. I'm just getting the tags done. They're perfect, you know, Christmassy kind of tag, definitely masculine. All right, so let's put the tree on the smaller one. And we'll put the deer. No, it could be an elk for all I know. I'm sure my husband will tell me if I say it's the wrong animal. It might be an elk. I don't know. All right. It's called reindeer, so I'm assuming it's a reindeer. So we're going to put him here. And he just looks so pretty on there. All right, now this one, he's a little too big for that tag, so I'm just going to save that tag and that deer for something else. We've got our little ribbons cut. And then I'll show you, because I also did ones with the silver foil. So I want to show you the difference. But I loved this sparkly ribbon on here with it. And I've just left them as a tag. I've not put a bow or anything because, you know, maybe it'll get tied on something. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with them. Tags are fun when you want to try a new technique or something. Now this one is a little, see, he's a little messy back here. So this guy I would probably put on, you know, a card so you don't see that. This right here is totally clean because by doing that whole sheet, you can kind of come in from the side. All right, so there's two with the copper. Here's a few that I did earlier. So like I said, you can never make them identical. Now this one, so these ones, I let them dry in between a little bit better so you have that nice crisp line, where this one was a little more foggier, but they're still beautiful, I think. So this is Faux Dip-Dye Technique. And I think they just turned out so cool. So I just stuck with greens because I wanted to look like, you know, like a scenery or something like that. But you could do any color. And then what I'll do is I'll just let those inks will dry in that little watercolor thing. But they're pretty diluted, so I didn't waste too much refill because I always say I like to not waste my refill. But I think I made good use of the refills today. So let me know what you think and what you suggest I do with them. So I'm going to say see you later. I won't be doing Friday. We should be in Texas. And same thing with Monday. So probably the next time you see me will be my Teach Me Tuesdays for 152. It should be, right? Or was this 152? No, this is 151. Oh, my mind. All right, but I will see you a week from today. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night, and I'll see you in a week. All right, bye for now.